Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Find Out podcast. We have had obviously a lot of news happen since we last talked. And it was actually Rich's idea that we are going to, this episode is going to be called what the experts refer to as a shit sandwich, which means we're going to put good stuff on one end, good stuff on the other end, and a whole pile of shit in the middle, which is, you guessed it, about the bombing of Iran and its nuclear facilities. So we're going to start off with some breaking news. We're recording on Monday morning, so this will still be relatively fresh by the time you get this. But a judge has ordered that Kilmar Abrego Garcia needs to be released because the Trump administration has absolutely nothing on him. So good news there. I don't think he's been released yet. We'll see if they actually comply with a court order, which they have been known not to do. So we'll see on that.
Yeah, it turns out all of those human trafficking charges would have been physically impossible to actually pull off. So I'm starting to think, you guys stay with me here, but I'm starting to think that maybe they just manufactured charges to
no, come on.
Hang on.
Don't be throwing accusations around willy-nilly, Rich.
So they could bring him back and actually comply with the Supreme Court's orders. So that's a minor miracle that they found a way to tuck their tail and bring him back so that they could, charge him with stuff. And it's like, okay, well, it won't surprise me if after a few more months, it all just dissolves into the ether and Abrego Garcia just suffers this absolutely catastrophic trauma to his family that pulls him out of circulation for 9 months, probably at that point, subjects him to misery, maybe violence, probably violence. And his kid didn't have a dad for the better part of the year. But
I thought we were talking about good things.
If we're lucky, hey, Abrego Garcia is back.
That's true.
And if we're lucky, a dad will be back with his wife and his kid here, and not too long in the future. All the rest is stuff that needs to be, we need to keep the accountability on Trump for that. But I'll take back a good person.
Remember when they said that there was no chance he was ever coming back?
Yep. He was never touching U.S. soil again.
Nope. Yep. Not coming back.
If they do bring him back, they'll just deport him again.
Yeah. So I think that the reason, Luke, that this is good news is obviously that the checks and balances still work some. I mean, as Katie Fang, when came on our show a few weeks ago, she actually highlighted this fact that the courts have actually done a pretty good, not great, but pretty good job of making the Trump administration actually just do legal things for the most part, not entirely.
And I think that's the really important thing to remember for listeners and for just people on social, like the whole, this country is fucked and everything is screwed and we're never going to have democracy again. Judges are also humans, and all of the people in the administration, they're barely human, but they're still humans. They are. I
don't know about Stephen Miller, Doug. I don't think he's a human.
Not him. They are susceptible to the public, the trend of the topic. If we all just say everything is screwed, they're going to go, all right, they've all given up.
No pre-comply in advance.
Right, exactly. And we said that for a while, that was a common thing to hear was don't comply in advance and don't obey in advance. But it feels like we kind of forgot that for a minute, and now we're just kind of going back to the whole it's World War III.
Well, that's a perfect transition. Yeah. So obviously we all know this weekend that President Trump ordered 3 nuclear facilities to be hit in Iran with those, I think they're 30-ton bunker buster bombs.
Yep.
He came out and declared complete and total success, which we have learned now that is not true. But obviously, this throws the world into turmoil. We haven't seen what Iran's response is yet. And we are kind of in a cluster because we have people leading a war that nobody trusts. So
don't forget, he doesn't want to talk to his, Pete Hegseth. He doesn't want to talk to him. The experts that he appointed doesn't want any part of their intelligence.
No. Intelligence? What's that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Not that Hegseth is some kind of a genius, but you would think you'd maybe want the intelligence that goes with that whole branch of the fucking government.
I think Rubio said it's irrelevant when they were like, what? He said it's irrelevant. And then Vance, I think it was Vance who said, the difference is all of the other presidents from the last 20 years were stupid. That's their
God.
I'm like, dude, just don't say anything. That I wouldn't have gotten it that poorly if I had just manufactured in my brain their excuses. But to come out and say that the intelligence is irrelevant and Obama and Trump the first time and Biden and George W. Bush were all just stupid, and that's why we didn't have. I'm like, it was literally the 2015 agreement was literally torn out by Trump. So once again, the reason why we're in this is because of something Trump did in the past.
Yep.
Yes. So let's dive into that, because I think that, obviously everybody's talking about this, but I think we need to talk specifically about the Democratic response to this, which I think is easily summed up as chaotic. All over the place.
Not good.
Not coherent.
Incoherent.
No.
Yeah.
Gibberish.
And like just scared people saying nonsense. That's how I would describe it.
I think feckless was a word that Romney used at one point, and I was like, or no, I think it was Mike Pence, I think, was the first person
feckless.
I heard. He's used feckless. I'm like, dude, like this, it's a breach of protocol. You can't do that.
It's unconstitutional. It's like, it's not.
You're allowed to.
That's the thing. Like, I've seen that from it'd be one thing if it's like regular Democrats saying it's fucking senators and shit. Like Elizabeth Warren tweeted, "This is unconstitutional." It's like, dude, it is not. Like, there have been every single president in the last 30 years has done this exact thing. Like, not striking Iran specifically, but deciding that they can use Article 2 to make specific decisions about what kind of, because here, like, just so listeners know, there's a critical difference between Article 1 and Article 2 of the Constitution. Article 1 is what states to go to war, you have to be able to get congressional approval. But Article 2,
of war.
Right. But Article 2 is pretty much a statement that says, if you have special military operations, there are specific decisions you want to make that don't amount to war, quote unquote, the president has the sole responsibility to make those decisions. So you have to, the legal central point is, how do you define war? And that is extremely open to interpretation. So that's why people get away with this shit.
I think the big piece is funding. Congress owns funding, and and I think it's Article 1 that says that no dollars can be used to fund war unless Congress has approved that. And so, if within the working budget they can drop bombs, I mean, we're not talking about an invasion, and we're not talking about ongoing, necessarily. If it got to that, they would either need what Bush got, which was an authorization of force, right, is what they called it, I think. Or a declaration of war. But we haven't actually declared war on anyone since Japan and Germany. So everything in, and I don't think we declared war against Italy, who was still part of the
I don't know.
Axis.
Right.
And so, Vietnam, the Korean War, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, we never declared war in any of these situations. Every one of these they were funded by Congress, and then the leadership was the president. And that's just kind of how we've, so unless you were freaking out about Obama doing unconstitutional things for 8 years, when he was engaged in the Middle East, you should not try to use the same argument against
you can be against it without calling it unconstitutional.
Exactly.
Right. Don't put it in the rule book. It's just a,
well, the rule book is, you can do this.
Well, regardless, honestly, like that tactic doesn't work in this country. We have the president of the United States is a 34-time convicted felon who incited an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. This is not the way to win a messaging war.
Right. The rules don't apply.
I was telling these guys, a day of love, Tim. I don't want to rehash this.
You want to know what I think the messaging ought to be? You got to talk about how fucking stupid the Republican messaging has been. I mean, Vance was like, well, we're not declaring war on Iran, just the Iran nuclear depot. That'd be like if the Japanese were like, yeah, we're not declaring war on the U.S. We're just declaring war on the Pearl Harbor aircraft carriers. Right. Like, so fucking stupid.
Like, that changes everything.
Or like Trump, how he was immediately like, well, we had a great mission. Now it's time for peace. That'd be like if the Japanese bombed the fuck out of Pearl Harbor and we're like, oh, time for peace. Like, it's a ridiculous fucking idea.
It is a ridiculous thing, but like at the same time though, like this is where I like to get into the details of it. It's like, yes, Iran sees it as an act of war and we don't. Like there's just two totally insular perspectives based on the circumstances. Because like Iran is pinned into a corner from this shit. And that's why they feel like it's an act of war against them, because essentially they don't have a move here. They essentially either have to come to the table or make some really, really bad decisions to attack American interests. They don't have a good move. So for them, because they're pushed into this corner, they feel like, oh, this was an act of war because it fucked us really hard. But the U.S., I mean, this move, frankly, put us in a better position geopolitically, and it gave us more options. And it also gave Trump like that strongman status that he's looking for in the world. Like, hey, you don't come to the table, I will fuck you. Like that. That's the reason why we don't see it as a declaration of war, and they do, because it's just circumstantially so different for each country.
I think you're giving them too much credit. I think they're not calling it a declaration of war, because if they called it a declaration of war, they would need congressional approval.
Well,
I mean, it is an aggressive.
It's not an ongoing thing,
Trump's
though.
talking about regime change. Like that's not exactly.
But he's not actually actively pursuing it. Like
he's not pursuing it. I mean, he was like,
I didn't
what
see
if we
anything
need to? We were like, what if we need to make Iran great again? I think is the word.
I saw the truth, whatever the tweet or the fuck it is. Yeah, MIGA. My primary news source is CNN. Usually when I'm looking at like major news networks, and their headline was like, Trump considering regime change. Like what? And I clicked into it and read his truth. I'm like, he is not. Like, there's no direct correlation between what he said and like actually pursue. He pretty much said like their leadership clearly sucks. Wouldn't you want different leaders? Like he's just not. I until I
Didn't
see
he say
evidence.
Why not?
Yeah, but I mean, like it's just Trump tweets that he had, a weird poop. Like he's just the kind of guy, like he'll say anything.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You gotta take
to this matter.
You
That's
gotta
how
take.
he ends
And when he fucking spelled his name wrong,
Donald.
Yeah.
He wrote that one.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
I agree, Zach. Like, I mean, look, like he's a bozo and he says bozo stuff, but like this to me is also like lowering the bar so that he can jump over it, like the media does all the time. It's like, well, Trump did it, and it's like I don't think that the president should be graded on a curve. I think that, and maybe it's not great for media, like for clicks, if you just say, well, he was just kidding, but like
I'm not trying to do that.
Like I mean, we violated, rightly or wrongly, we violated someone's airspace and destroyed something that was not ours. I mean, I don't know how anybody could look at that other than at least an act of aggression.
I mean, it's only a declaration of war because we spend so much goddamn money on our military that they'd be foolish to hit back.
Well, yeah, I mean, but to me, it's such a layered thing. Like, there's so many levels to it where it's like, it's very hard for me just to look at it and go, well, this is a declaration of war. It's like, I said it in our previous episode when we talked about this. I said, this is Trump's opportunity to thread the needle. And I think so far he's done exactly that, is that he really just wanted to like make a statement of like, hey, if you're not going to fucking negotiate on this nuclear deal, which he should never have left back in 2015, but this is where we're at today. If you're not going to come to the table, I will just fucking destroy your shit. And then after that, go, look, I don't want a prolonged war. I don't want to like go in there and actively try to regime change. Maybe I'll root for it, but I don't want to do it. So here's the thing. If he starts to trend towards actually actively trying to change the regime or try to put boots on the ground or going further, then he didn't thread the needle. Then he got entrenched in a fucking war that he shouldn't be in. But if he does what I think he's going to do, because I called the fact that he would do this, and I think he's not going to go further because it's not smart. It's just bad for him across the board. His base will be pissed off. America will be uncomfortable. It's bad economically. Trump wants this to be over. This was his real shot at like, come back to the fucking table. I've had enough of this shit. And frankly, I sort of support that general approach. I never thought he should have left the original deal. The original deal was pretty good. It wasn't great. But given the circumstances, having a nuclear Iran is worse to me than what we did. I think it's just more dangerous.
So let's go back to the Democratic response here, because I think it's important to talk about this, and we kind of already started to basically shit all over their response. But, we've seen everything from impeachment talk to support. John Fetterman on the supportive side.
I didn't even have to know.
Yeah. And but some of them have offered some pretty milquetoast responses to this too, all the way to AOC.
A Democrat? No, I know. I don't believe it.
And AOC over to impeachment. So we have the full range, which again,
that's like every issue though.
People like to joke about Democrats in disarray, but Democrats are in disarray.
Sure.
There's just no question about it.
They
have not come up with a coherent response to this, even though I think it's very simple.
What's the simple? What is it?
The simple is, and I actually put this on Blue Sky. I was talking to the guys about this earlier. So my most popular one, Skeet, I guess we call them. And all it was,
I didn't want to hear that.
It is called Skeet.
That's awful.
Yep. taking
like
that
the
from
worst
Lil Jon, I
branding
guess.
ever.
But anyways, so I basically said, all I want to hear out of Democrats is that Barack Obama got a deal with Iran and they stopped enriching uranium.
Yes.
Donald Trump tore up that agreement, and then we had to bomb Iran's enrichment of uranium and put American lives in danger.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it. You're
That's
right.
it.
That is the
Like,
correct
I don't
strategy.
understand. Like, I saw members, and I'm not going to call anyone out individually, but I saw members and I see them putting out statements that are like 5 paragraphs long.
Mhm.
Why?
Right.
Why?
There's no
It
value
doesn't
to it.
matter.
Yeah,
Like,
people don't give a shit.
Yeah, just like be against it. And it's very clear that Donald Trump put us in this situation. Like he did. Like,
yes,
you can see that there are charts that like these were verifiable that they had only been enriching uranium up to 3%, which every country is allowed to do. They stopped, and then it looks like they had gotten all the way to 60%. And 90 is when you get to the nuclear grade. So Donald Trump created this mess.
Yes.
And now he is trying to get himself out of it.
That's a great point. But like, I think we need to clear, like, I want to clear up my perspective. I totally agree with all that. But now that we're in these circumstances, what was the best way to clean it up? I think that's the question we also have to be asking ourselves as a party is like, do we look at this and go, well, we don't think this is right in a silo? Like, what do we think about a nuclear Iran? Just as, in general, I'm curious about that question because when you add Trump in and all the things that come along with it, it's a lot of baggage. Right. Well, let's talk about just in a silo. Right. Do we feel comfortable with Iran having a nuclear weapon? Because that kind of is the central question of this whole thing.
No, but no, I am not comfortable with that. And I think most Americans are not comfortable with that. Yeah.
Well, and the world agrees with that because
correct.
The decision that the world made, I think in 2003, was that no new countries can obtain nuclear weapons and no nuclear weapons can be bought or sold to another company to another country through the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And so basically it's don't make any more bombs, keep the bombs where they're at, and decommission as many bombs as you possibly can, because we need to just denuclear the whole world. And that's where we collectively as a species left off, because every single person, including people like Vladimir Putin, understand that there's no way that this goes well. If you fuck with nukes, it's over. Can you imagine if Iran dropped something on Israel? I mean, it would be...
They're over.
Yeah, everything's over.
The and that would be their target. Yeah, the world is over. No question.
I think at some point, I think 1 or 2, 3 would fly, and then probably, hopefully, the people who have the most, the leaders who have the most, would say, "Guys, like we might be hitting critical mass here. Like, are we going to have 150 fly? Because then it's nuclear Armageddon, or
it's done.
Or do we pause here?" So, like, I don't think that. But I don't think that's going to happen, and we can't let it happen. That's the decision the world made, and so that's why Iran can't have a bomb. It's nothing about Iran necessarily for me.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I would say they are a well-known funder of international terrorism, which scares the shit out of me, But like, my problem is with this partially is because this is what happens when you have a government you don't trust, and I'm talking about ours. Yep. When you have leaders that lie constantly. And they have no problem like bold-faced lie, like things that are like we all know are false, and they say them anyways. So like and it's the same with Bibi Netanyahu, who has been saying for 25 years that Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb. It's the same, and we have a horrible track record of telling the truth about war. If we go back to 2002 and 2003, they flat out lied.
Yes.
Like George W. Bush and team, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, idiots row, like
made it up.
They got us into a war that took 20 years. It's probably the greatest foreign policy disaster since Vietnam, no question. And so like, I don't know what to believe from them. I just don't. And
that's an interesting point.
That's the hard part here is like, I don't know if they are close or not. So how can I even, because you've already built this wall
so how
of
can
lies.
how can I make this like, oh, this was a right thing to do if I don't even believe that the reasoning for it was real. I understand that. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I mean that I've seen that narrative a shit ton the past couple days of like, this is Iraq again, and like that's one thing I just want to call out. Like I think that a lot of the problem with the Democratic response just like missing the details of the situation. Like Iraq was a massive blunder because the whole thing was a lie. It's a flat out lie, made up, no actual functional information that was verified by anybody led to that decision other than this internal room that said just lie and go. Iran is different. Iran has made no secret of the fact that they're developing nuclear weapons, that they have the intent, they have the intent and the ability to get there. There have been verified outside sources, the UN included, that have verified they're doing this. It's a different situation. Iran, like whether or not they're 2 weeks away or 2 years away, that I don't know, but they're working on it and they're trying to get there. Iraq, they weren't working on it. It didn't exist. It's a critically different thing. So to me, it's like, if we're going to try to package it all together and go Iraq, Iran's the same, it's like, it couldn't be more dissimilar. There's one side where it's made up and there's one where it's completely confirmed. That's a different story. So I think we have to operate within that realm and like remember, like, yeah, it's one thing to say don't trust the government's lying to you. Yeah, they did and they still do, but to what extent? The extent's very different here. So I think that's a critical thing for public trust of Democrats. You can't come out there and say it's the same, because it just fucking isn't.
Oh, I don't think it's the same. But I think that putting the blame on Trump backing out of the deal is the right play to be
Absolutely.
making politically.
100%, 100%.
Right? Like, and they're not doing that.
No.
And I've had people texting me this too. Like because I posted that thing, I had multiple people write to me and say, why are they not doing this? And I don't have a good answer other than you have some folks that are very pro-Israel, and so that they are going to be supportive of military intervention in Iran. But other than that, I like even those folks should be like, well, we had a deal, even though there were some Democrats against the deal. But like,
why?
Well, you can ask.
I don't know. It makes no sense.
Well, the answer is some of them who are pro-Israel were not interested in a deal because Israel was very against the deal when that was signed in 2015 or whenever.
Why would Israel be? Wouldn't they want Iran to be not a nuclear power?
Because they didn't believe they would adhere to it. But they did adhere to it.
Yeah,
and
they
that
did.
is the important context. Like that,
they let people in.
The inspectors came in. Everybody, like, you know, I'm not saying they didn't do some bad shit because they are a bad regime and these are terrible people, don't get me wrong, but like they were holding up their end of the deal. And that leads me to the point, I think, Zach, which I will push back a little bit on this intervention, is name I have one answer. I have one where this is true. Name one intervention where airstrikes solved the problem.
I mean, I can't. I'm not saying this solved. I don't think this solved the problem. I think this was a tempo setting move from the Trump administration. This was essentially going, we're going to put a stake in the ground and go, this is how we're going to react to you from now on. Because I think what happened in the last 5 years with Iran was Iran got new leadership. The Biden administration tried to negotiate with them and they were like, go fuck yourself. We're interested in building a nuclear weapon and get out of my face. We're going to do it. And then the Trump administration said, no, we're going to come in with our huge dick and just they're going to come to the table with us. And they're like, no, we're not. We're going to continue to develop a nuclear weapon. And then Trump said, all right, fuck it. We'll just actually have a show of force to go, you got to stop. That's, I think, their mindset. Whether or not it'll work, I have no fucking idea. But I believe to this day, that's where they're at. I don't know.
I think also, just to be clear, the leader has been the same in Iran for about 30 years. The Ayatollah is the one.
I know. But like the actual
president is sort of a like fake democracy bullshit thing. But it did turn out that apparently well, the reason that they didn't do the talks that Trump wanted to was that the president couldn't actually get a hold of the Ayatollah because he was in hiding, which kind of shows the amateurishness of this operation that he apparently, I don't know if he's communicating through carrier pigeon or what.
Signal.
Like, Signal. Yeah, Signal, the super safe Signal app. But I'll say
proud of WikiLeaks for not leaking this one. I thought it was coming.
Well, WikiLeaks wants us in this, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyways, the one I was going to say. WikiLeaks. Oh, gotcha. Okay. The one that worked was Bosnia-Yugoslavia War in the 1990s with Bill Clinton.
God damn, it's like fucking doing a podcast with an encyclopedia.
Well,
I wasn't even alive for this shit. I don't know about this.
But I was alive.
Okay, give me the rundown. Give me the cliff notes.
College. Well, basically, I mean, I don't. You're gonna make me talk about this far more than I know. But basically, there was after the Berlin Wall fell, Yugoslavia, it was in Czechoslovakia, these big countries started to split apart because they were shoved together by the Soviet Union, and the different demographics split up, and there was a big war. and I believe it was Bosnia. God, I'm going to get killed on this because I'm going to get it wrong. Was ethnically cleansing the people in Kosovo, which is a very, very tiny country, which was part of Bosnia, I believe, wanted their independence, doing horrible things. And Bill Clinton ordered airstrikes. We didn't lose a single life. We stopped it from happening. And it actually mostly solved. Then we went after their leaders. Slobodan Milosevic was one. I'm forgetting the other guy that they found later, but who is, I think, still in prison. But that was the one issue. But my point is, like, Iran has now said that they are not going to negotiate.
Right.
So then
That's what makes me think
mean?
no.
So I guess the question is, what does that mean? Right. What does I don't negotiate? We are not going to negotiate because by threat of force.
Yeah.
What is the next play that the Trump administration could play if they've taken the diplomacy card off the table?
I mean, we got to remember, like, every single person here, it's like over eavesdropping on the playground with a bunch of 2-year-olds, and they're like, my dad has a nuclear weapon, and the other one is like, my dad is the strongest man in the universe, and you're like, they're all full of shit, and they're all just lying to each other. So trying to I mean, they've been saying death to America for like since I was born, right, in Iran, right? And they're like, this is going to be the end of the world, and like we're going to bring, I don't know, death and destruction, blah blah blah. They are A+ in just talking shit that they can't back up, and so and that comes with being a national leader, a global leader. That comes with the job that Trump has and that all of the other developed nations have, is you have to be able to listen to fools say incorrect things and know when to address it and when not to address it. And I think that's my biggest issue here is they've been saying this. I mean, we've seen the graphic now that's like the odometer rolling over from Iraq to Iran. Like, this was back in Bush years that graphic was made, because it felt like Bush was building the case to say, well, we didn't get him in Iraq, we didn't get him in Afghanistan, so now we're going to have to go after him in Iran, and just chasing Islamic politicians essentially and programs everywhere and just bombing everyone. And so this has been at least a 15 to 20 year conversation where it's like, oh, well, Iran is evil and they want death to America and we have to go after him. And we never did, because it was always a bluff. And so now we've taken the bait and we haven't heard how much this costs, by the way. It's not cheap to drop 30-ton bombs on countries, it turns out. We're going to find out that this cost $100 or $200 million probably, and anything after that is also going to cost more money. It cost us $8 trillion to get in and out of the war on terror. That was the full tally. It was $8 trillion in debt, which was our entire national debt when we started the war on terror. So the rest of this is going to continue to play out, and that's where people have to decide, was this the time to do this thing? Was this the bluff to call, or was this just a distraction because he's pissed off that nobody took his bait in the Los Angeles protests and allowed him to declare war on American people?
And nobody likes his budget bill.
Right.
And nobody came to his birthday party.
And nobody came to his birthday parade.
a lot of
and
this,
he's getting his ass handed to him in the courts.
That's true. I mean, the distraction element plays a role, but I think, like, in the end, unfortunately for us, Iran's going to dictate what happens next. Yeah. There's nothing
whatever their
we can
response
really do.
is.
Yeah, there's really nothing we can do. And I see only two paths, right? Like, the one path is Iran decides to be adversarial to this whole thing and really try to ratchet things up. And for them, the strategic imperative is that Trump doesn't want that. Trump is not interested in boots on the ground, forcing him to do more things. He wants to get it and get out and be done. Yeah. So Iran is like, I think that what they're weighing right now is, do we do something and risk our own lives tremendously, but also fuck over Trump in a massive way? Or do we just sort of slink into the background, do tiny little things? But really, their second option is kind of do nothing, because they're not going to come to the table and negotiate, but they are potentially just going to slink out of this and hope nobody notices. And I think they do that, but who the hell knows?
I was going to say, I was worried for a few days there. I mean, I figured, because the time zones are flipped, I figured we'd be waking up, either Saturday or Sunday morning to, like, Iran retaliates, like Iran attacks, American base, or Iran attacks warships in the was it the Strait of Hormuz?
Right.
Like, we have a presence everywhere around there, but they also have an enormous amount of pressure economically, because all of the nations in that vicinity that aren't Iran, and Afghanistan. And I don't really know how our relations are with Afghanistan, but we have a lot of allies, and there are hundreds of billions of dollars that get pumped out of that area every day in energy. And so I think there's a lot of vested interest among sort of the peer countries that all have that shared economic interest to not rock the boat. And if it doesn't look like we got their stockpiles, like they're not showing like leakage, like the radiation leakage that you would see if you hit enriched uranium. And so it's possible we took out the infrastructure and slowed down the program enough, but didn't do so much damage that Iran is going to think we have to throw a haymaker now. Like we have to do the Hail Mary thing.
Yeah, they moved their shit.
They might, they moved it, and they might say like, hey, we're 5 years out now instead of 2 years or whatever. And that's going to be a perpetual thing that we chase, probably with these people for a long time.
There was a New York Times report last night that basically said what you guys are saying, which we actually don't know how successful this has been. Right. Trump has already been caught in a lie and saying that it was a complete success,
like an obliteration.
Yeah, I know.
Obliteration.
And they said basically we don't know where the uranium is.
Yeah,
so, but like as you guys also said, like
it's irrelevant.
The centrifuge is it's irrelevant. Yeah, where's the 60% enriched uranium? But the centrifuges are actually, and this was in the article, they're like welded to the floor, so you can't just like pick those up. So it's likely that if those bombs were successful, it got that. But there's even photos, and like there's another building that's next to where it looks like the bombs went in that was untouched. Now maybe we know what's in there and we weren't going to waste any time with it. Yeah, but it does look kind of silly to see a building sitting, a large building that's picked up by a satellite that's not touched. Yeah. But I think, this goes back to the credibility problem, though, is that I just don't know. And then,
Well, thank God that we have like the best director of counterterrorism in the world now, right? Like,
the 22-year-old guy?
22-year-old Gardner.
Yeah, with no background whatsoever.
Makes no sense.
This is like when George Bush put the guy who was in charge of the the Equestrian Association in charge of FEMA during Katrina.
Yeah.
And by the way, I keep bringing up Bush because I want to remind folks, because people are always like, oh, I want to go back to those days. He was fucking awful. And Donald Trump is a worse domestic president, but George Bush was a worse foreign policy president. We'll see now. He's making a run for it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but, we'll see.
I don't know. He took a surplus, destroyed it, lied us into a war in Iraq,
sent our
economy into a depression. And don't forget, there were people who got arrested in his administration for doing illegal shit as well. So I am not going to give him
I think it's important to remember that these are not disconnected. Like he spent $8 trillion on a war on terror while ignoring robo-signing, and we don't have to get into the Great Recession, but while ignoring robo-signing and the deregulation of banks and the runaway everything.
All of the domestic shit.
Right. 100 economic bubbles inflated while he was staring. I mean, he wanted to find Osama bin Laden and he never did. And so his entire focus for 8 years was chasing Osama bin Laden, and he ignored everything domestically. And that first January that Obama took office, we lost, I think, 900,000 jobs in 1 month.
That was crazy.
Per month, yeah.
It was per month. And I think for 6 months, we were losing like high 6-figure job counts every single month before the bleeding stopped. So yes, George W. Bush caused a lot of problems. And let's not also then lose sight of the fact that like what Trump is doing right now is going to cause him to not pay attention to things locally. Right. Those tariffs are blowing up, but
George Bush passed a massive tax cut for the rich that torpedoed the economy. And then what saved the economy? Barack Obama coming and pumping a bunch of money into the economy. Right. But anyways, that's all, history, but like we're repeating ourselves.
Well, it's an interesting element of it though. Like we don't really talk about the economic effect of all this, and it's going to maybe be the most important thing of everything. I don't think the military side is going to go much further than this. I really think it's going to be about like, will Iran close the strait? And like that, I saw a story about that this morning of like the big challenge for them is they want to do it, but China doesn't want them to because China uses the same fucking spot and they need it. So like it becomes
Iran's
one of those things.
Place.
Yeah, they're really in it. Like Iran got really fucked by this move, and like they don't have a really good set of response tactics, and it should be interesting. But the other thing that's interesting is like Trump's tariffs, it seemed like a lot of economists were coming out in the last few days being like, well, maybe they're not going to be as bad for the economy and da. This is going to fuck that up for him. Like oil prices are going to go up unquestionably. Tariffs are going to have a greater impact because we're going to have a weird supply chain problem if Iran does what we think they'll do. This could end up really fucking Trump over in a way that he maybe miscalculated on. So it could be just non-military fuck-ups.
For those of you who don't know, the 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So if you just shut that down, then you've lost 20% of your supply. And so you can do the math on what that's going to put. And my guess is that because oil companies are awful, they're going to jack up prices anyways. It will be a 20% increase. Yeah. Right. They're going to speculate and shoot up.
100%.
So might be a good time to buy an EV before Trump.
Hey guys.
Those tax credits are gone, aren't they?
Yes.
The EV credits.
I believe so.
Are they fully gone, or
I think they're pretty gone.
I know he threatened to get rid of them, but while we I think started to record, Trump posted on Truth Social. Can I read it to you guys in real time?
Hearing that is like
I am very
nails
excited.
on chalkboard.
Okay.
What's the truth?
Stay with me here.
Yeah.
Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word nuclear and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that, or is it just a figment of my imagination? Let's all just post about this speculatively, by the way. Did figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately.
What are
you requesting?
So many things wrong with this.
Who is supposed to tell him that?
This isn't the whole thing. The N-word should not be treated so casually. He posts on social media.
Jesus Christ.
I guess that's why Putin's the boss. By the way, if anyone thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, far and away the strongest and best equipment we have, 20 years advanced over the pack, it is our nuclear submarines. They are the most powerful and lethal weapons ever built and just launched 30 Tomahawks. All 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and the crew. So he covered a little bit of ground in that. But the core issue is that he is just openly asking the world to verify or invalidate the claim that the former president of Russia has offered to or suggested that people are going to supply
rebranding the N-word apparently.
Iran with nuclear.
So he actually was saying the N-word.
I read
the phrase the N-word.
The N-word.
He used the word. Yeah, right. But he did put nuclear exclamation point in parentheses because he's got to do that.
What an awful
what a fucking troll piece of shit.
So
and that's there's something I haven't seen talked about is that one of the people that was on that crew on the B-2 that went to Iran was a woman, and I have seen him exclusively use the word boys in referring to who went, which is such a fucky thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's how he is every time, but I don't think it's talked about enough. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I agree. That was hard to hear. Hearing it read out loud is pain, dude. Like it's reading it is one thing, but hearing it out loud is like, this guy is nuts. Like,
he's not well.
It's so unhinged.
This is why I love sleeping so much, because
it's like time travel. It's like time travel. Nothing can get me there. Nothing can get me there.
It is. And if it does, you'll never know.
Right.
Yep. Time travel, going out where there's no cell service, both are great.
Yes.
Yeah, but then you wake up and you go, oh God, I have to look at my phone now.
It's a trauma dump. It takes about 30 seconds. You're like, it's less bad than I expected or worse than I expected.
So I think I guess, did Medvedev say that? Because
he did.
So he did say it.
I saw it days ago, yeah.
And yet, and now Trump is like, did he say that? Somebody
it's also bullshit. Like nobody's going to lend Iran a nuke. It's fucking insane.
Well, and that's it. So getting to the bottom of it real quick, I don't want people to hear this and panic. The Business Insider already has an article about it. I was distracted while we were yakking because this was happening, but they've already debunked it, and they've said, like, I mean, Russia signed the non-proliferation treaty. There are many, many, many layers of tactical reasons why it would be absolutely insane. Like they can actually trace the signature of fissile material from an attack. So if anybody did give it to them, they would either have to immediately use it or it would get taken away from them, and it would be forcefully taken out of their hands. It would not be okay for Iran if they were to violate the treaty that the whole world has signed. So it's bullshit. And yet it's bullshit that Trump is now elevating to.
He's focused on
Truth Social.
And let's be clear. Medvedev, even when he was president, he really wasn't in control. But I think maybe he's the prime minister now or something. But like that guy has shit talked on Twitter or wherever like for years. Like this is what they do.
He's a troll.
They pump their chests up. And like they're not doing that's just like you said, that is nonsense. But
Never
like
gonna happen.
but this is why these interventions scare me so much, is because Donald Trump is unhinged. He's
Right.
not a well man, and he's 79, whatever the hell he is, which apparently used to be a problem that we had a president that old, but apparently now there's no problem with that. But that scares me. And then the other piece of this that scares me, that, and then maybe we could go into something happier after this, but is that the Iranian regime is a theocracy.
Right.
And that is the thing that scares me about escalation. Because if they get it in their head that this is their ticket to heaven or wherever to go down in a blaze of glory, we all suffer for that. The Iranian people suffer for that. And it would be, mass casualties in the Middle East, to be clear. Because Zach and I did a live a couple nights ago and people were like, are we going to get hit in the United States? The answer to that is no. Highly, highly unlikely. And I don't want to hear shit about some stupid sleeper cells, which is really mostly a racist dog whistle. Don't do it. Like, it takes time to build a terrorist attack. It's just not. So, it's not, and of course they said it because they want to scare us. But like, come on. So
who said sleeper cell? Did anybody actually say it?
There's a report, an NBC report that said that the Iranians told the U.S. government that.
I mean, it's just
but
posturing.
Like, of course they said that. They know that if they attack the American homeland and it goes back to them, they're done. They're done. But that's the thing about the theocracy thing that scares me, is that they do believe that the Ayatollah, I think, is the God's representative on earth.
Yes.
And so if, people do crazy shit when that comes into play. But anyways, we'll have to wait and see. We are going to have an actual expert with us on Thursday's episode. I think we're going to have Dan Perry, who used to be the bureau chief for the AP in the Middle East. So he knows a lot about this. And so we're going to talk to him then. But I think we've kind of covered it here. And because we did say we have a shit sandwich, which means we want to end with something positive, we're actually going to just talk about something positive that happened in our lives to end with something good, because war sucks and I don't want to talk about it.
I think the thing we did miss, though, we have to, and this is kind of part of the what is it, the graham cracker or whatever, like this is part of the end of the sandwich, but we never
graham cracker on a sandwich. What kind of fucking sandwich are you eating?
I'm thinking like a s'more for some reason.
Like the middle of a s'more is great.
I went to a s'more.
That's true.
But it's brown. Anyway, it's fine. We never took a moment to make fun of Operation Midnight Hammer.
Oh, it's such a bad name.
It's a terrible name.
It's so bad.
When Melania heard that Trump was going to do something called Operation Midnight Hammer, she must have just been laughing her ass off. She's like, that's not a thing that's ever happened. Just compensating.
What a terrible name.
It's like if they put like a prompt in the ChatGPT of like, what could we name this? It sounds super cool. And it's like Operation Midnight Hammer.
Like they probably did.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's not the only thing they're using AI for.
And they didn't ask it to first rule out anything that sounds like the name of an 80s porn.
It also doesn't make sense. What's the hammer? Like a hammer, it just hits the surface of something. You're trying to get a bunker buster deep into you need better words. It just makes no sense.
You're putting too much thought into it. Way more than you put into it.
If I was in that room, I'd be like, this makes no sense, dude.
No, you know that Hegseth was like, we got to call it that because they're getting fucked.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably the extent of the conversation.
With a nice glass of scotch in his hand.
Mm-hmm. Several.
12 of them. Okay, we're going to do the positive now. And so, Rich, it was your idea, so you're going to go first.
Yeah, I mean, kind of relates to Iran, because I was thinking my kids' birthdays are both this week, and we spent a day with a bunch of my daughter's friends yesterday, and we're going to have cake and stuff tonight, and my son's birthday is on Wednesday, and so like this is typically a very fun week. They're 8 and 12 this year, and so like we've done this for now the past 8 years, where we've had a double birthday week, and it's a lot of fun. And at the same time, it got me thinking about like there's just millions of people in Iran who don't want any of this, who should be living their best lives and spending time with their kids doing the things that they want to do. And is a good reminder that like not everybody's asking for this. Like we all just want to be regular people, like doing things with our family, eating and cooking and going to trampoline parks, whatever. So anyway, it is going to be a fun week for us because we are safely at home, very, very far from the trauma. But let's also not forget, not to get like preachy, but let's not forget that this is what most people want, I think, around the world, is just to be able to just do normal things. So don't get too hung up on like everybody hates everybody and everybody wants misery. It's really a small handful of insecure leaders who want all the conflict, and everybody else is just dealing with it.
Yeah. Luke, do you want to go next?
Sure. I saw the worst movie of my life this weekend.
The live action one?
No, I went and saw 28 Years Later.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's bad.
It should have been called 28 Inches Later, because I saw
I heard about this.
A lot of zombie hammers in it. And this is a movie that takes
They
place
should have called it Operation Midnight Hammer.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is a movie that takes place in Scotland. It's supposed to be 28 years later, after an infection takes over that makes people go insane, that like they eat people. It's fucking crazy. The whole thing was shot on an iPhone, literally, and they acted like that was something good. And it's probably the worst cinematography I've seen in my life.
Oh, no.
There's like, so their choice of weaponry is a bow and arrow. And every time they hit a zombie with the bow and arrow, it does a 360 cam on the zombie of the arrow hitting.
So it's a video game.
It's like a video game. It's awful. And it ends. There are, well, I'm not going to spoil, but there are
spoils.
There's fucking ninjas in this movie in Scotland that are like Power Rangers.
What?
It sounds ridiculous.
It is
great.
The most ridiculous movie I've seen in my life. I followed it up with How to Train Your Dragon, which was significantly better, way better movie. But 28 Years Later is the worst movie I've seen in my life.
Was Cillian Murphy in it?
No, it has Aaron Taylor Johnson, and it has the lady from Killing Eve, and it has
Sandra Oh?
No, not Sandra Oh, the other one.
Oh.
I thought he was in it though.
It's not Cillian Murphy. It's Ray Fiennes or Ray Fiennes. However,
Ray Fiennes. Oh,
there
okay, okay.
Who does kill it? He does a really good job. Like the acting was not the
he's
issue.
an amazing actor.
It was the fucking script. It was horrendous.
It's the Midnight Hammer.
Danny Boyle.
Danny Boyle and I need to have words.
Oh man, because I thought I saw good reviews for it.
It has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't understand who saw that.
This is
movie.
a hot take from you.
Have you seen the other two?
No.
Oh, well, but you didn't see the.
My sister saw. It was my sister. It was my sister's choice in movie. I asked. I was like, "Do I need to see the other two?" She goes, "No, it's off. It's on by its own." I said,
Really?
"Okay, yeah." And then we get 10 minutes into the movie, and she's like, "Yeah, this is not like the other two." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Because I would kind of say that's kind of like watching Return of the Jedi without watching A New Hope.
See, that's what I
Empire
kind of
Strikes
like.
Back.
I was worried about, but there really wasn't anything like that wasn't explained.
Okay.
I mean, 28 Days Later is one of the best horror movies
so
ever.
good. So good.
A plus.
Terrifying.
So I'm still going to see it, but now I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, don't bring the kids.
Do not bring the kids.
Oh, I don't think an 8 and 12-year-old should go to that.
Is it still full frontal if it's a zombie? Or like, is that a different category? Like zombie porn, is that different?
Dude, there's more than full frontal.
Oh God. Okay.
Jesus.
All right. We're talking about good stuff here. So
it was fucking crazy.
Maybe it's a little good stuff.
It's got a 7.2 on IMDb. Like, it's not terrible. Like,
no, it's pretty good. I mean,
you're giving it like a 4.2 read. So
I'm giving it like a D-.
We're gonna have to revisit this.
I'm getting off this. Zach, you're next.
All right, mine's I mean, like, I live a super boring life outside of this stuff, like, so I don't do a ton. But like, I don't know. What I was just thinking about it as you guys were talking, like, it's sort of like what Rich was saying. Like, people just want to get up and just fucking do regular things. And like, I think, for me, once I get out of this whole realm, it's all focused on my daughter, right? She's 4, and she's at a point in life where like she's just growing up so fucking fast, and like little things keep getting so much. Like, she gets so much more advanced. It's like nuts. So I'm just appreciating those little moments. Like, she said the funniest thing she's ever said. I was making my will this week because I'm old enough now with kids and things. I need to have a will. I make my will, and part of my will is like, I want my wife to like keep my stuff until she's 18. Like, don't throw it out. I have hey, don't throw my shit out. And we were arguing about that, and she's like, well, just ask Evie. Does Evie want this stuff? And Evie goes, no, I just want the money. And I was like, holy shit, what a fucking thing to say.
Oh, so I love it.
I'm just enjoying these kinds of moments outside of the shit.
That's incredible. Well, mine
after
is.
You go, I gotta just because you reminded me, Zach, I got a thing that I gotta share with you that Mike has said. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna. I can't compete with that, but I'm gonna go to the movie TV side and just say we've been watching the 4th season of The Righteous Gemstones, and it is just the funniest shit that you could possibly imagine.
That's good?
If you like Danny McBride, you should watch it. The first season takes a little bit of time, but man, it is hilarious. And there was a scene at a lake house. I'm not going to spoil it. That just had me actually laughing out loud, which is actually kind of hard. It's hard to watch laugh and I was dying. So Danny McBride is a genius, and he makes deplorable people actually entertaining and hilarious. So I give him that. So
that sounds good.
That's mine. All right, Rich, what's your final thought before we wrap?
No, just because, and maybe we'll have to revisit this regularly because kids do say the funniest shit. And there was a time when my daughter, I think, was watching Beauty and the Beast, and afterward she's like, "Daddy, will you dance with me?" Because there's the big scene at the end, and I was like, "Of course." And so we're dancing, and she goes, I'll be the beauty and you can be the beast. And then she looks at my wife who's sitting on the couch and she goes, "And Mom can be the horse." And my wife was just like catching strays. Like, what do I have to do?
What did I do?
What do you say? Fuck me for?
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think that's a great time to wrap it up. So thank you guys as always. Thank you everyone for listening. And if you get a chance, please subscribe to our Substack. It helps defray costs and allow us to grow, which is findoutpodcast.substack.com. Also, don't forget to check out our merch at findoutpodcast.com. And I think that's it, everybody. Thank you. And we'll see you again on Thursday. Stay safe out there, everyone.